What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Urban Legendz podcast, man. I've been trying to get this dude on here for 2 years now.
No, that's not true.
Maybe a year. This dude is, man, you one of the few people I actually look up to, man, and admire out here in the game, man, because I respect what you're doing. He has Sherman Showcase. He has Southside. Was a writer for Jimmy Fallon. I didn't know you was a writer on Chocolate News.
Man, that was the very first gig that we had in television. And let me just say, and I don't know if we can just go right into it.
Go for it.
I always said that that was always a weird first credit because, you know, back at that time, people would come up to me and be like, you know, let me just start off by saying me and Bashir, we were the baby writers. You know, it was our very first gig. Everybody in the room knew it. And almost everybody in that room had worked on like In Living Color. Like they were like from another generation. So we pitched a lot of jokes. I think we got one joke on, like literally one joke the whole season. And
now we see why they got canceled.
Well, no, but listen, you know, like it was just it was an older room, and I think that if like Bashir and I had like somehow, you know, messed around and actually had some say, it would have been a very different show.
For sure,
would have been a real different show. But people used to come up to me around that time and be like, "Yo, I love Chocolate News," and I'd be like, "Oh, thanks, man, but you know, we didn't get any jokes on that show." And then every now and then some people would come up and be like, "I hate Chocolate News." And it'd be like, "Dude, we ain't get no jokes on that show." You know, like.
Well, you know what's so funny? So I say the same thing. So I just wrote Half Baked too, right? And I was like, I wrote the first draft, and then they brought in a director
rewrote it.
Who rewrote?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yo, if it's trash,
it's not on me.
Don't look at me, man.
Listen, that's an important thing for people to realize is that when you do movie, the director has a lot of say.
Yeah.
And when you do a TV show, the showrunner / head writer has a lot of say. So it's kind of flipped because like writers and features like will sometimes like just look at their movie and be like, man, that person destroyed my vision. And same in TV. In TV, a lot of directors come through with like big ideas because, you know, people who tend to be directors have strong opinions.
Yep.
But in TV, that director's opinion often doesn't mean that much to the head writer.
Right.
Because the head writer is in charge. The head writer is the person who's there every episode. And most shows don't have the same director every episode.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. Have you ever had a director come onto one of your shows?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I cut that. You were going to say come on our show and try and like take over?
Yep.
No, and the reason is because on both of our existing shows, Sherman Showcase and Southside, there's essentially one director. On Sherman Showcase, this is through Matt Piedmont. He's a former Saturday Night Live dude. He just comes with a very specific vision of how to pull off. Like we'll write crazy things on Sherman Showcase. I don't know, you know, who's seen season 2, but like there's a scene where Bashir Sherman rides off in a helicopter. How do you do that on our budget when we can't even put the fuel in a helicopter? Right. You know, he figures out ways to do it, and he'll take the fact that we're a small budget show and work it in on the jokes. So without spoiling it, if you watch episode, I think it's 3 or 4 of Sherman Showcase season 2, when he rides off on that helicopter, we just handle it in a low budget way.
Right.
But we handle it in a way that makes you laugh. So that's kind of how and on Southside, we got this dude, Michael Blyden. We met him when we were on Jimmy Fallon. And, you know, he's directed almost every episode of Southside. Now, I will say me and Bashir have directed 2 episodes.
Nice.
Bashir's brother, Ismail, who's a very talented director, has directed an episode. And this year we had our first female director, a woman named Brittany Boardman. She directed an episode. So Blyden hasn't done every episode of Southside, but he definitely did the pilot. He definitely, you know, found the look of that show.
Yeah.
And so that's why we haven't done that show that has, sadly, we haven't done that show that's gone on for season after season after season. And you get to know all these different directors because, you know, sometimes that director will come in and do such a good job, you'll eventually make him or her a executive producer on the show. Right. I know that happened with Sally Richardson. You know, she came in and directed some key episodes of Winning Time. Gotcha. And now she's going to be an executive producer, part of the writer, you know, hierarchy, so to speak, on the new season. So, you know, sometimes they come in and kill it.
I love Winning Time also, man. That's a question I have for you because I know that Sherman Showcase is on IFC.
Yeah, thank you for knowing that because
but that's gonna get to my question.
We don't get a whole lot of billboards promotion. Like it's literally just my Instagram page, and every now and then John Legend or Chance the rapper. They're depending on us to promote the show.
Well, man, see, I know you kind of talking to something. I was the star of Rush Hour, the TV series. Okay, and that got canceled during the commercial break, and so I know all about it. Not having the promotion that you are expecting or would like.
In the wild, like people don't understand. It's one thing to just sell the idea of a show. It's another thing to get them to turn your script into a pilot. Mm-hmm. It's another thing to get them to turn your pilot into a TV series, and then you finally have your show. And they put it on the air, and nobody may know that it's on the air. There's so much TV. I'm sure I'm not the only person. People come up to me all the time and be like, "Oh, have you seen that new show? Dr. Wilson? Like it could be anything." And you just be like, "No, I ain't even heard of it." They're like, "Oh, it's so good." And unfortunately, some of your work and some of my work doesn't even get seen because they put all the money into making the show, but then they decide, well, the show that we're going to promote is this one show, and these other shows, we'll see if they find an audience, and that never works.
Exactly, bro. That's exactly correct. Oh, I know all about it. So, okay, so that's the question. So, Southside is on HBO Max.
Yes, which is a much more robust platform. Like people know about HBO Max because they're either watching Insecure or the latest, Dragon series. Like whatever's on HBO Max. I feel like Southside is winning because people actually know where to find it easily,
That was the question I was going to ask. Which one do you feel like more people are
platform-wise? Yeah. Well, here's what's really sad. So IFC is just a cable channel. I mean, how many people actually just sit and listen and pay for cable now? Yeah. So when it's on IFC, the only place you can actually stream it is on AMC Plus, which a lot of people just don't have AMC Plus. Right. A couple of people who are really into Walking Dead, but AMC Plus is just not what HBO Max is. That's just being truthful. Hopefully they'll invest in it. I do look forward to the fact is that Sherman Showcase does start streaming on Hulu, usually 90 days after the season's done airing.
That's good.
On IFC. So more people know what Hulu is.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And especially now that Hulu's being sort of rolled into Disney Plus, I think pretty soon you'll be able to watch Sherman Showcase either on Hulu or Disney Plus.
Hey, man, that's what's happening, because that's what I was wondering, like, platform versus, like, critics and, like, accolades. Because I feel like Sherman Showcase get more of the accolades.
Because people are forced to sit down and actually watch it. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
here's our screener, goddammit. A link.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They send them a link, and the critics at the New York Times, the Washington Post. So, by the way, thank you to those people because they use their platform to promote a show that I have a lot, not just creative interest in, but like I got family. My wife is the choreographer. My nephew is the animator. Bashir's sister is like the damn near the biggest breakout singer from the TV show. Like I put a lot of effort into that show, and so when these critics want to show it love, I love them for it. I always say that show, Sherman Showcase, should have a lot more cultural impact than it does, except that it's on IFC, which is not traditionally done shows for our community.
Right.
A lot of black people don't even know. I used to joke that IFC stood for It's Fucking Caucasian.
Right.
It's true. Or nowadays, because it's like, well, it's going to air on IFC, but then a week before that, it's going to be on AMC Plus, and then 90 days from now, it's going to be on Hulu. I'm like, now it stands for It's Fucking Complicated.
Right.
I feel like I got to educate people on their devices just for them to find it. So yeah, it gets a lot of love from people who actually see it, but the challenge is to get people to watch it.
What's your work hours like? Because I can only imagine, and then that balancing a family at the same time.
My youngest tends to wake up around 6:15, so I wake up with him. He's 5 now, so I wake up around 6:15, and I power through till about like 7. Doing all the work stuff, and then I try and just chill out on the couch and try and watch what my kids are watching. By the way, my kids, if they're any indication, like, I don't know what's happening in the entertainment industry. I don't know where we're headed. They watch so many like YouTube videos by people just reacting to some stuff they saw on other YouTube videos. Yeah. Like I told them like 2 weeks ago, I was like, can y'all watch something with a script? Do y'all know how dad actually earns his living? Like I write things and y'all are watching people in headphones like we are now, I guess. Just reacting to video games and stuff.
It's so funny. My daughter, I have a 9-year-old, and she loves watching people play like Fortnite and all these other type of shows.
Roblox.
Yep. That's a new thing. Roblox. That's what I just gave her a Microsoft Surface tablet specifically so she could play Roblox on it, right? And then I realized, I said, that's their podcast.
It really is.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So she likes hearing people talk about these games and stuff like that, and that's like how I kind of put it into my brain, like.
I heard somebody make a joke. They were like, a parent was like, how you going to sit here and watch other people play video games? Right. And the kids were like, why do you watch TV shows where other people buy houses?
Right. That's a fact, though.
And I was like, yes, very true.
Man, so I want to go back a little bit, man, because, something that I'm impressed by. One, you was valedictorian, right? Like your high school? Was it high school or college?
High school.
High school. Okay.
And I wasn't the valedictorian. I know what story.
Oh, that was a joke?
I don't know. Here's what happened, man. I was a great student until senior year of high school, and then it's like one of those things where your basketball team gets out way ahead, and so they started slacking off a little bit. Like senior year, I started slacking off, and then these two other people pushed past me for the valedictorian, salutatorian positions, but I still won star student, which was like doesn't matter. But because star student gives a speech senior year, everybody just in their minds they think I was the valedictorian, but I was not.
Gotcha.
And that's why when CeeLo saw me
right
on the Paramount line, CeeLo from Goody Mob, he was like, "Oh man, he was the valedictorian," And I'm not gonna correct him because in that moment, he was already a rap superstar, and I was getting coffee.
Right.
So
because anybody don't know, he went to school with Goody Mob, right? Or at least
sure did. Yeah, they were like 1 and 2 years older than me, but we went to high school in Atlanta, so everybody knew everybody else.
Yeah, I went to Clark Atlanta University.
Oh,
that's where I graduated from.
That's what's up.
So this is what I wanted to know too, though, because you identify yourself as a black nerd?
I do.
Okay.
I do, yeah, I wear like a badge of pride.
That's right, and I consider myself a comedy nerd, right? So I get it.
There's all kinds of nerds. I mean, I wrote a song Black Nerd for Sherman Showcase, but really, I mean, like, I'm not every kind of nerd. Like, I'm sometimes, I think music, comedy, film, TV to a certain extent, like those kind of pop cultural things I'm into. But like, there are all kinds of, people who are into astronomy and stuff, like that's not really my cup of tea. But like, I just wanted to do an anthem for all the black people who, and I feel like it's different who consider themselves nerds, but I feel like it's also different than it used to be because there was a time when like you would get, oh man, he Urkel, like that was a big thing, but I feel like nowadays like people respect the nerds. They know that like all the freaking billionaires were nerds at some point for the most part. So I feel like that sort of degrading people for being nerds, it's at least in our community, has gone away a lot.
Yeah, I think so. And that's a question I was going to ask. I was going to ask, like, when you were coming up, was that a thing? Like, did you experience any type of bullying, or people just like, that's Diallo, it's all good? Because
I feel like the stereotype is that people bully the nerds, but I feel like because, especially my high school and middle school and elementary school, they were all 99% black. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Like, it was just,
Atlanta.
everybody was black. I always say that there were 3 non-black kids in my high school: Tran Lee, Jorge Ramos, and Joel Blessinger.
Right.
Those are the only non-black kids in my entire high school. And I feel like as a result, just looking back, like, no, they didn't really bully me. In fact, there would be, I'm just going to use a term, there would be straight up thugs in our school who would actually stop other thugs from bullying me. They'd be like,
really?
No, leave him alone. He going to be president one day.
Straight up.
Like, hey, he's going to do some things. Y'all need to leave Diallo alone. So in a weird way, I had protection because people knew I wasn't trying to be anything other than what I was.
Right, because this is why I was even impressed when I thought you was valedictorian. Now I realized you was just another nigga.
I was third place, man. I was third place. It's like when someone comes in third place on American Idol, but yet they have a better career.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I actually still, it's all good.
No, because I feel like the smartest comedians are smart. Like the higher your intellect, the smarter the comedy. What you feel about that? Do you feel like there's some sort of like credence to that?
There's so many different types of smart. I actually think I can agree with you because even if somebody's whole thing is like, oh man, he's so ignorant. He got that ignorant. Like even that takes the highest level of the ignorance. Right. You know what I mean? Like it really takes. I think all comedy kind of comes from somebody seeing the world differently, but it's also like they see it the same as us. Right. Like the best comedians, they're seeing it differently. I think we understand what that is. Right. But in a weird way, they're seeing it the same because they can pick out something that we've all seen,
right,
make a joke about it, and I guarantee every other comedian is like, oh, damn, how did I not notice that?
That's a fact.
How did I not catch that? That should have been my joke a million times. I knew there was something there, and I couldn't quite put my finger on. I think that Chappelle and Chris Rock, and like there's just some people who like they stay. I always say Chris Rock has always been my favorite personal comedian because half of his jokes aren't even punchlines. They're literally just him pointing out something that you kind of knew was a thing, but you didn't know how to articulate it, or you just didn't spot it.
Yes, yeah.
I just think that that's the brilliance of a Chris Rock.
He was my favorite until Chappelle kept going. And Chappelle kept going, and he kept going, and he kept going, because I judge people like who's my favorite comedians based off of how many classic stand-up specials.
How many years?
Well, not even years, but specials. I'm like, how many classic specials do I feel like? And for a long time, I was like, damn, like Chappelle got 2 great classics. Eddie Murphy got 2 classics. Like, but I mean, Chris Rock had 2 classics. I mean, he got Bigger and Blacker, Brain to Pain. Like, those for me are like the 2 like classics.
You know what's crazy, man? And you know, obviously Chappelle's a whole conversation, especially these days.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
But what's interesting to me is how some people, I feel like some people get forgotten when we talk about like the society. It's easy to go from like Richard Pryor to Eddie Murphy to Martin Lawrence. I feel like we're all agreed on that succession.
Right.
And then you get to a weird period where I feel like a lot of us will go from Martin Lawrence to like Chris Rock, but I think you forget like Damon Wayans had the crown for a little bit.
I'm with you with that. Yeah.
You people forget somebody else is in the 90s. I mean, like people forget about those Jamie Foxx stand-up specials.
Man.
They were huge.
Yeah, they were huge.
They were huge.
Especially I Might Need Security. Oh man.
Bruh. And then you get to the 2000s and I feel like people leave out Cat Williams. They leave out people leave out Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's easy to forget how classic some of those specials were. So it's I'd love for somebody to like just break down like exactly this is the definitive list. But
I mean, shit, even Sinbad had the crown for a little bit.
Exactly. People want to write him out of the book sometimes. I'm just like, Sinbad was so funny to us. You know what I mean? And nowadays I feel like the younger generation just thinks of him as that dude who was in those movies, but there was a time.
The baggy pants.
There was a time, yeah, exactly. Chris Rock said he had to put his show in the 80s because he just felt like Sinbad owned the 70s.
Damn.
You know? That's it, because Chris Rock is actually of age. Everybody hates Chris. Should have been the 70s, but he was just like, I can't do that because that's Sinbad's territory.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Damn. Man, you and Bashir, man, y'all met at Harvard, right?
We did. Yep.
Man, and I know some people that went to Harvard, and this is what I was thinking though. So y'all met in a singing group at Harvard, right? Did y'all ever try to do like, don't they have like the Harvard Lampoon or something like that, or was comedy not even in your like thinking?
You know what's crazy? Okay, so Bashir was pre-med, and I think I was like in government or something. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do in life. But you know, we were working class kids at Harvard. Like, it didn't even, I don't think, occur to us that we would ever do a career that you didn't just make millions of dollars out of the gate. So you know, he thought he was going to be a doctor. I thought I was going to be on Wall Street. Like, you know, that's how you succeed when you come from backgrounds like ours. Right. You know, you don't take all that, you know, hope and money, quite frankly, from your parents and say, I'm going to be an artist. Like, you know, like they would be sad. Right. But, you know, we always were all about those extracurricular activities. Bashir knew he wanted to do some acting. You know, he did a one-man show that I thought was outstanding around sophomore year. We joined the group called Brothers, which was like our attempt to do like, you know, Jodeci and Shy.
Oh, nice.
You know, all those kind of like, you know, R&B songs. And we wore matching sweaters and, you know, me, him. And Ryan Leslie was actually in that group. You know, like we were there.
Wow. That's
yeah,
amazing.
we were in there doing like, we wore matching sweaters and we'd hit up any coffee shop in Boston. You know, just we'd be up in there like, you know, do da do 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 do. You know, like that was us.
Love everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time somebody had a song, they go, ooh, well. You know, like that was, you know, we'd be out there singing it. So,
damn.
Yeah, man. And then I don't know when it actually. I can tell you when it officially became. Oh, we should write and do comedy together. That was after college. I think the whole time we were in college, we were making people laugh, but we didn't do the Lampoon. We didn't do like, because you got to realize, just like with the SAT itself, college has certain cultural biases. And I think it's really different now. I feel like black students now at Harvard probably do go out for the Lampoon and other stuff like, but like when we were there, like that shit was lily white. You know what I mean?
Gotcha,
like it wasn't even on our radar like that. I heard rumors that, oh, if you want to go write for The Simpsons, you need to join the Lampoon. Right. And you need to start writing scripts. It wasn't really on my radar. We watched those shows together. Me and Bashir and a couple other people, like we were into the comedy. I
mean, I wore the donut shirt because I
love it.
A fan of The Simpsons. You know? I said, let me throw on this donut shirt real quick.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, you know, we didn't do all that stuff. In fact, I actually wrote for like the Harvard Political Review. I thought I wanted to do like serious writing. I knew I wanted to write, but I to do like nonfiction?
Man, this is what I haven't brought up yet, man. When I discovered you, it was on Marlon. I discovered you on Marlon, bro, because my homeboy Afion Crockett, he was up for the same role.
Everybody was up for that role. The whole city.
The whole city.
The whole city. I remember when I went in, Ari Spears was there. There were a bunch of people like literally in the room. And I remember thinking like, why am I here?
Right.
Seriously, I was like, why am I here? I mean, like, shout out to all the talented bros who went out for that part. I can tell you, and I think most of them know this, but I can tell you when I went in, I didn't even really do the sides for that part. Like I went in and basically rewrote the sides on the spot to suit my own voice. Because I think the first line was, "Hey, yo, Marlon, you got to bust it up TV," or something like that. And I told my agent when I saw that, I was like, they're not going to buy this coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
So I went in there, I was like, Marlon, you got a broken television set.
Right.
I just did it super me. And but I remember I had Marlon laughing for the beginning, but by the end of the audition, he put his arm around me and he was like, "You a funny ass nigga."
Right.
And I was like, oh, well, at least I impressed him enough where they'll bring me in for a small part, because clearly I'm not right for this part.
Right.
But then when I came in for the second audition, because when you go out for these parts, there's usually a callback audition where suddenly there are a lot of people in the room, and you're like, that's the head of NBC. That's the head of, that's the head of the writing staff. Like you can feel when you walk in, oh, this is a room with some stakes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some high stakes in this room. And I remember I looked at the script, and the script had changed. The script was the words that I had used in my audition. I was like, oh, that's a good sign, because clearly they rewrote it more in my voice now. And then I just had a good time in the second audition, and then I got the call before I even got off the lot. So
damn, yeah, that's when I discovered you, man. I was like, this dude is funny.
Oh, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, man. I was like, and then when it went up a notch is when I saw you at Sold the Show, or you, because I would be looking at Deadline and Hollywood Reporter and all that. I'm a nerd.
Might as well, man. You got to. If you're gonna go into any industry, you got to stay up on the news in the industry.
That's what I'm saying, right? So when I saw that, I was like, damn. I was like, he writes too, because that's something that I'm doing also, And
I think everybody who. Well, I won't say everybody. Some people are pure actors. Some people are pure writers. But a lot of us are creators deep down inside. Yeah. And I think some of us, it only makes sense if Hollywood isn't bringing you the roles that you want. Get yourself Final Draft or some. There are a couple that aren't as expensive as Final Draft. Just start writing the parts that you want to be in and take like 5 minutes of it and shoot it with your friends and show off the world what you can do. Because the worst thing I think you can do is wait for Hollywood to show up at your door with a role that's perfect for you.
That's a fact, man. I literally just got back from Atlanta filming my own pilot presentation.
There you go.
How
many minutes?
So this is what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, altogether, it's probably 15 minutes, but I cut it up because it's different segments.
Mm-hmm.
So I got every segment, it's 4 different segments, and they each on separate Vimeo links.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, imagine if you had different moments from like Sherman Showcase on separate Vimeo links. And so people could, so I got
sort of like maybe 3 clips from 3 episodes.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's and so really it's like, and each one is like 3.5 minutes long.
I think that's perfect. Just so you know, usually a proof of concept doesn't have to be over 8 minutes, and some of them only have to be 5. But let me contradict myself. Southside, we took the money that they gave us for the script, and we shot a 18-minute proof of concept. Ooh. So we went really long, but we felt like we had just so much good stuff, we didn't want to cut it. So,
that's amazing. So y'all didn't actually write the script. Y'all sold the idea.
We did write it.
Oh, y'all,
but,
okay.
you usually pocket the money for the script to pay for your family and stuff.
Right.
And
it was like, fuck the kids.
I can homeschool these kids.
Fuck all of this, man. We better go shoot this pilot presentation.
We gonna learn how to triumph over obstacles in life. This is a movie called Indiana Jones.
Right, straight up.
Man, you're a terrible teacher, Dad. No, I mean, like, it is funny that, like, every now and then you gotta really sacrifice, because we did not have a lot of money, Bashir and I, back then, but we were just like, we will not be able to write the South Side of Chicago in a way that these executives who don't look like us are going to understand.
Yeah.
So we still wrote the script, but we took the money from it, as painful as it was, and we went to Chicago and shot with his brother and his friends. And by the way, the other cool thing about shooting it was that when we got the order to actually shoot an official pilot, we didn't have to tell them, oh, by the way, Bashir's brother is really funny. He would be good for this part, because his brother, the twins on the show, they'd never done any formal acting before.
Wow.
So there's no way that Comedy Central, because that was where we were at the time, there's no way, I don't think, that Comedy Central would have been like, yeah, let's hire a whole bunch of unknowns. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, the proof of concept both served as here's how the dialogue on this show is going to work, and oh, by the way, here's some really funny people, in these parts.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So proof of concept, man. Like I said, our 18-minute thing was probably too long, but I had to put that out there because I don't want to tell people, 15 minutes is too long when we have a show going into its third season that began its life as an 18. Just try and, as an 18-minute pilot, just try and take the time to edit your stuff down. The more you cut out, and you know this, the more you cut out, the more it raises up the stuff that you leave in.
That's what made me feel good because I showed it to a few people over the weekend, and they was like, damn, I wanted to see more.
That's great. Like, that's all you ever want.
Yeah, exactly.
I like, you know what? I like to give people the advice they need on this business, man. I feel like
that's what I be wanting, though.
Not that we would call it Black Deadline, but I really wish there was like a Black Hollywood podcast with like some entrenched, some entrenched dudes who are doing it. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what I'm saying? That's part of the reason why I started this podcast, bro, because, like I said, I do really want to celebrate people that I feel like are really getting it in out here. But I be wanting people to like pick up tools, man, that they can
exact tools. Exactly.
So that's part of the reason, bro. So yeah, I appreciate all the stuff you drop.
Like nowadays I actually will sit and watch like CNBC and some stuff like just on business of business, but I'm like, there's not a lot other than the Ankler. I like the Ankler is a Hollywood newsletter that goes out, and it's got a lot of stuff about the business that I read. Actually, Issa put me onto that.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, the Ankler is really good.
Issa, talk about a queen.
Oh, all so big. What's crazy though, and I don't know if you can use this. Are we still recording?
Yep, we back.
It's interesting. If you talk about platforms, you might want to throw this into the section where we were talking about the difference between AMC Plus. And you talk about the difference between AMC Plus and HBO Max. I mean, platform makes a big difference in terms of reach and how many people see it. Like, so many people around the world know Issa Rae from Insecure because HBO has that worldwide reach. And there are places in the English-speaking world where you cannot get Sherman Showcase or Southside. And that's something I'm working on for all my future projects because you bring up Marlon. Marlon was a show that was on Netflix.
Yeah.
It was on NBC and 5 million people saw it. But it went to Netflix and it must be tens of millions of people because that show has not – we shot 2 seasons and it was in 2017, 2018. Not a week goes past where I'm not like – somewhere and somebody comes up to me and either says, yo, were you on Marlon? Or they just call out, yo, Stevie.
Right.
Like, it still happens.
Yeah.
I was at the Rams game yesterday and an Irish dude, Scotland. He was from Scotland. This tall white dude walks up to me. He's like, hey, you're Stevie from Marlon, aren't you? And he's like, can I get a selfie? Like, I was like, yo, it's crazy to me that Netflix, HBO Max, they just got reach on a different level.
Yeah, man. And they know it too.
They know it.
They know it too.
They know it.
And that's also why I feel like they don't always want to give out their metrics.
So of course not. Yeah. But I mean, the numbers got to be insane, man.
It got to be insane. But I was talking to, Hassan Minaj?
Of course. Yeah. We did, so we were on an episode of Jimmy Fallon recently.
That's right. I was on the same episode.
He was on the same episode. So we were backstage just like hanging out. It was mad cool. So I love that dude.
Yeah. So that's the homie. We came up together and that's another person that shot a proof of concept. So when you was talking about that, I mean, that's the same thing he did for Homecoming King. He shot that as a proof of concept.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Yo, Hassan is a cool ass dude. I feel like all of my mutual friends with him are black. He just must know a gang of black folk. For real. Like, dude is mad cool. I hope we get to work on something.
Oh yeah, man. He's a beast, man. I don't even know how the fuck we got on Hassan Minaj, but that's the whole. This is what I wanted to ask you. This is what I was saying when it came to the metrics. I was like, I said, how do you know? Because I had went to the screening for his The King's Jester, and I said, how would you know? Do they tell you like how well it's doing? Netflix, and he was like, nah. He said, so really, I kind of gauge from like Twitter interactions and stuff like that. That's how I kind of gauge how well the special is doing. And I told him, I said, well, yeah, they don't want you to know because they also don't want you to know how.
Ask for more money. Yeah.
Exactly. How powerful you are. Because they know if you say, I got X amount of people clicking on me, you got to ask for X amount of dollars.
100%, man. It's kind of a screwed up system in that if you're not doing well, you'll find out because they won't renew you.
Right.
Like, you won't have any idea how you're doing. And then one day they'll be like, okay, so one season was enough.
Right.
But then they'll be like, oh, yo, we getting some traction out there. We getting some traction. And they'll come back to you and be like, yes, we're very happy with the metrics. Would you like to do another season? And of course, you're going to be like, yeah, I'd love to do another season. But then you're like, how well did we do?
Right.
I want to know how much I should be asking for. And it's hidden, like in the old days when we had Nielsen ratings, everybody knew, I'll put it like this. The content creators, we knew how much leverage we had. And
right.
they've robbed us of knowing what the leverage is. So it's not an ideal situation at all.
Yeah, they like, we know it. This is what I wanted to know. Between Sherman Showcase and Southside, do you have a different writer's room for each?
Yes, they're different. But there's definitely overlap. Like somebody like a Will Miles, who's a stand-up, who y'all should know.
I'm going to check him out.
Yeah, Will Miles is great. Very, very funny man. He's on the staff of both. So there's some writers who work on one and not the other. And then there are some writers who work on both.
And then how do you go about getting your writer's room together? Do you go through agents? Is it people that you just know? You like,
it's a combination. Sometimes we're like, hey, we're opening up a room, and we start getting a flood of scripts from every agency, people who know us, and then we sort of piece. And then obviously there's some people who were like, oh, I really want to work. Langston Kerman's somebody who we really wanted to work with. You know what I'm saying? So we were like, yo, Langston, you're from Chicago, you're from Harvey, come get in this room. You know what I'm saying? So it's a mix and match.
And now is Bashir from Chicago?
Bashir's from Chicago.
Okay, because
and let me just say for all the Chicago heads out there, every writer in the the Southside room is from Chicago except for me, from Atlanta. But Atlanta and Chicago got some similarities.
Oh, for a fact, that's a fact.
And
they both kill niggas.
man, Atlanta, man. You know what? I still love Atlanta. We actually dream of expanding the Southside universe, so to speak. So there would be Southside, which would be Chicago. There'd be Southwest, which would be Zone 4 in Atlanta. There'd be South Central, which would be the LA show. South Philly for Philadelphia. South Bronx for New York. Like we were just like it'd be the Southiverse or something like that. But we would create a bunch of shows for different cities, with a focus on the black community.
That would be fire, bro.
I would love it.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there.
I got a crib out in Atlanta still. I'm always going.
What part?
West Midtown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a rental property too. So if you ever need a house.
Oh well, fun fact: my father was a painter and a sculptor, and the city of Atlanta commissioned him to do the artwork in the Midtown train station.
Wow.
So if you're ever in the Midtown MARTA train station and you see those gigantic steel artwork on the roof, it's not on the roof. It's like way up high on the wall. That's my pop. That's my pops, John Riddle Jr.
That's amazing, man. So where you at in your career right now? Like, are you still auditioning, or are you like, I don't got time to audition, or are you like, I'll just go create my own stuff? Like, where are you at when it comes to that?
Let me say this, and this is seeing it on the other side now, because for years I just sat on the writer side of the audition process, and I could give actors advice on that. I think the big advice would just be yourself. As the character, like, whatever version of that character is you, be that, because even if you don't get that part, they'll remember you. They'll be like, yo, so-and-so is good. He wasn't good. He wasn't, the janitor, whatever that is. He wasn't that, but maybe we can make him, something else, so always be yourself. Damn, I just blanked. Well, I was answering a question.
I was saying, goddamn.
It's about acting.
No, dude, are you still auditioning?
Oh, yes. Okay, so.
Are you like, fuck
about auditioning? No, here's the good news. As somebody who used to always have to audition, after a while, people see your work, and just recently, a Peacock show was just like, "Hey, we don't have to audition. This is an offer to play this kind of character on an episode." It's a wonderful thing to hear, because then you don't have any of that nervousness of auditioning. You're just like, "Oh, right. they know my stuff. They like it. I'm gonna go ahead and play this part." That said, you can be really famous in this industry, and depending on the size of the role, you might still have to audition. You know what I'm saying? Like I've made some friends now, and they're like, yeah, I'm going in for this, Marvel movie. I'm going in. Like, when you're going in for really big stuff, or like, love interest is a part you almost always have to try out for, because people got to know what your energy is like in the room and whether y'all vibe and stuff like that. Auditioning never goes away.
Right.
But yes, as you get more known, you will get more offers to just show up on set that day.
Is there any place where you want to develop films, or are you like, I'm going to just stick to TV?
No, I mean, like right now, Bashir and I are doing our TV work with Warner Brothers Studio, and it's a studio, so we can sell a Warner Brothers project to Netflix, to Amazon, like anywhere.
That's amazing.
So that part is cool. Like if you get one of these big deals in Netflix, you can't take a Netflix show to HBO. So I think we're happy to be at Warner Brothers. On the feature side, we have a deal in place with Paramount. So we have to show all of our movie ideas to Paramount first. If they pass, then we can take them elsewhere. But I grew up seeing those stars around the mountain.
Yeah.
And at the top of every Indiana Jones film. So
Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah, exactly.
Eddie Murphy, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Transformers, G.I. Joe. I told him I want to reboot the G.I. Joe series.
Ooh, I would love that.
I would love it. I think that I actually grew up loving the cartoon, and I think that what people don't realize, those G.I. Joe cartoons were really well written.
Absolutely.
They were really well written. So I think the next the next G.I. Joe franchise should actually embrace the cartoon like it's the comic book.
Yeah.
And use the characterizations and even some of the storylines if they have the rights. Use some of the storylines to build out a world that's already kind of there. Use the cartoon like a comic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They gonna let you do that, right?
They already got some people assigned.
But,
for real? But I think if they drop the ball, then we'll be able to slide in there.
Yeah, bro. Because y'all are like the fucking black, like Chris Miller and Phil Lord. You know what I'm saying?
I love Lord and Miller. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but just like that dynamic duo, like that comedic team that's like getting stuff done out here in Hollywood right now.
I hope so, man. Again, I'm troubled by the fact that I feel like Southside is really taken off. I feel like so many people have discovered Southside.
I watched it when it was on Comedy Central.
Bruh, thank you.
Yeah.
You and 99,000 of your cousins.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, man, I love that.
I think that, the goal is just to get our material out there to more people. So, right now, as we are continuing to unroll seasons of Sherman's at Southside, we got another generation of shows coming. We're working with Marlon on a new show.
Man, I can't wait to see that. That's the show that I feel like Marlon needs.
It's gonna be a different kind of show. It's not gonna be a sitcom. Yeah. It's gonna be about Marlon's real life. And we just turned in some work to the network on it, and I think that it's beautiful, man. It's a lovely show. Right. It's got some serious moments and some real moments, and it's also got some really funny sort of Curb Your Enthusiasm moments. I think that what people need to realize is that Marlon is still absolutely that dude who killed it acting-wise in Requiem for a Dream.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that, this show is going to allow him to play so many different levels. I just, I'm praying for dude to get the show, not because I'm attached to it, but because I want people to know, how dope, the vision for the show that Marlon has. And last thing I'll say about Marlon is that of all the people I've met in this industry, nobody has been more... it's crazy because he's a crazy dude.
Right.
But nobody's been more normal.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? Nobody's been more grounded and sort of like, I don't know if humble's the word, but like he's not an egomaniac.
That's
you know
true.
what I'm saying? It's so easy to get the money and the accolades and then just turn into a crazy egomaniac. That's not him. And that's why I continue to work with him, because I just think him, and by the way, Brescia, Essence, all the people in that cast, like, we're just all still family because they're all just good people.
Yeah, man, he's one of the first A-listers, and that's when I realized that the A-listers are nicer than the B and C listers. Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Man, I work with some A-listers. I'm like, I never want to see that person in the room again. I'm sorry.
No, I'm joking. Man, we about to get out of here. I have like one last question. I'm trying to see what was the question. IP ownership.
Yes. Intellectual property.
That's right.
We talk a lot about it in this business because that is what's going to hopefully feed your grandkids one day. Yeah. When you're a grandparent, that's if you can be somebody who actually creates something that means something 20 years from now, or people are still watching it, like that's real power.
Yeah. So in y'all with Southside and Sherman Showcase, do y'all own any type of like points or
we own
anything?
points?
Yeah,
we own points.
Yeah.
I mean.
And is that something you're working towards to like just own your content like a
Straight
Tyler
out?
Perry? Yeah.
Wow, that's a great question. I don't know that I have a great answer to it. There's some intellectual property that you're willing to part with. Well, let me state this, because people always think, they don't own their own intellectual property. They got taken. They're paying you for your intellectual property.
Right. I'm living in this big ass house because they're paying me for my services.
People are always like, I want to own the property, but I want somebody to pay me to write the script. That's not what they're paying you for. When they pay you to write the script, they own that property. Now, there are ways to get around somebody, but you got to realize you're not going to get paid in a way to necessarily pay your bills. It's just, listen, if you feel like you have an idea that's so golden that you can somehow get it made, maybe just from independent money, go for it. Yeah. But even the people giving you the independent money, even if you work out a deal where I'm just thinking, thinking on the fly here. If you found somebody who had, let's say, $5 million, and you were like, I can make this movie for $5 million, and I will return, the $5 million to you because we're going to make that in theaters. I will give you $6 million. You got to give them some incentive. You can't just give them the money back.
Right.
I'll give you $6 million if you give me $5 million today. And then somehow you work it out with your bank or Bitcoin or something where like you pay them back the $6 million, but the idea is now yours for perpetuity. I guess it could work. That's not really how our business works. A couple of, I think the better idea, if you really thought you could make a movie for $5 million that a lot of people would go and see, you would be probably wise to find some of that independent money and then take it to a film festival where it will get sold to a major distributor like a Paramount, or nowadays, like if it's in the horror film, A24 does a lot of horror, and I'm getting really in the weeds, but I'm trying to map this out for somebody. Then you could, because like if your $5 million movie sells for $30 million, you're going to get a big chunk of that.
That's a lot of money coming back.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, yeah. And I mean, like, to go back to Marlon, he couldn't find a studio that wanted to make Scary Movie.
Damn.
So
Scary Movie or a Haunted House?
Is it Scary Movie or Haunted House? It might be Haunted House.
The newer one, right?
Yeah, the newer one. It's Haunted House. My
yeah.
bad. I'm glad you corrected that. He couldn't find somebody to make Haunted House. He found some investors who were willing to let him keep a large portion of that. So when Haunted House blew up, Marlon made a lot of money, but
he bought that new house he got.
bought maybe more than one.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Marlon had already had decades of studios and companies and, basically paying him his fee, his hourly fee. And, so he didn't come into it as an unknown quantity.
Right.
So that's the business side of it. I think I was saying during the last break that I would love to listen to a podcast that from people who know what they're talking about. I don't want to listen to people who never made a movie talk about, but like people talking about like what are some out of the box ways to start your own company. Like, Tyler Perry, I know we all were laughing for a couple of years like, oh man, I don't like those movies, but like, I mean, he's accomplished something extraordinary.
Yeah.
Say whatever you will creatively about his movies. He's probably the only black man in the business who doesn't have to get a green light from somebody else. He can just do it. And that is real power. He bought up Fort McPherson, which is by my old house in Atlanta. And when I was a kid, it was just a vacant, abandoned sort of, old, I think it was an Air Force base or something like that. And he turned it into a movie studio. So, there's a lot of power in being able to green light yourself. But I think for the rest of us, for now, if you're just a person who has a vision for a movie or a TV show, let them pay you. And you will get, because of the hard work of our unions and our guilds, you will get a portion. You just may not get 30%. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can negotiate that. If you hire a decent lawyer, you can negotiate what percentage you get.
I still get residuals from Key and Peele. I did a few sketches on Key and
Bruh,
Peele.
residuals. Shout out to the guild. I still get residuals on Marlon, and you never know when those checks are going to show up. But when they do, it's like a magic genie just showed up at your house, and they're like, ta-da! Thank God that we, in the Writers Guild, and the Screen Actors Guild, and the Directors Guild, we do get to see some money from stuff we shot years and years ago. That's the good part of this business.
Hey, man, listen, man. Diallo Riddle, no, you got to get out of here, man. Yeah. I created this platform, Urban Legends, to celebrate people that I feel like are living legends and people that I feel like are making legendary moves, bruh. I admire you. I respect you, man.
It's mutual, bro.
Man, I appreciate that. And, you got anything? Let the people know where they can find you, what you got, what IFC?
Hey, listen. I'm going to say, find me on Instagram at Diallo. It's just 6 letters, Diallo, at Diallo. You'll always know what I got coming out in development. I post my stuff out there. But in the meantime, if you just really against Instagram or social media these days, you can find Sherman Showcase on AMC Plus. It's an app. You can find it. Eventually, depending on when you listen to this, you might be able to find it on Hulu if it's, They
need to put some clips on YouTube also.
They put clips on YouTube, but you know what? I always feel like Sherman Showcase. I've had people like, they're like, yo, have you heard Drop It Low for Jesus? I'm like, that's from Sherman Showcase. Sometimes these clips on YouTube, even though Sherman Showcase is right there on the screen, people don't realize that's a show.
But I see what you're saying.
But I feel like the show elevates, because like anything we post on YouTube is just a portion of a very satisfying meal. So I would ask that you just, come in,
watch the full show.
Let us set the table for you, and let's give you the full course meal. Sherman Showcase on AMC Plus and pretty soon, Hulu. And then obviously Southside season 3 coming in December of 2022 to HBO Max. I think season 3 is going to, I thought season 2 was great.
It was fire.
I think season 3 is going to blow people's minds even more.
Hey man, Diallo Riddle, Urban Legends, we out.